HMHS and I'm live. This is not gonna be that long. It's just gonna be 18 seconds and 46 minutes. Tomorrow I'll be going live, and it'll be my video is gonna be long. And now let's get to the video.
Taking my usual.
This is full terrifying true night. Full terrifying true night drive horror stories by Mr. Nightmare. Let's go.
I was driving home from work one night, taking my usual route home. I got out at midnight, so it was probably 12:15ish at this point. My town is pretty quiet and boring. A lot of woods everywhere, and not a lot of people or houses. I was on this road not far from my house with a cornfield on one side and a patch of woods on the other. It was midsummer and like 75 degrees, so I had my convertible top down. I was cruising down the street going like 50 when I heard a loud, blood-curdling woman's scream come from one side of the road, and I couldn't tell which one. I brought the car to a quick halt by slamming on the brakes and listening. There was a woman's cry from the left side, in the woods. She was crying for help. I got out of my car and grabbed the baton from my back seat. I walked
That's all fine.
towards the woods and called back, "Who's out there?" And the woman immediately called back, "Please help me." I began to run into the woods, swiping all the twigs.
I wouldn't do that. It's probably a creature mocking a woman.
And bushes out of my way. I yelled out to the woman to keep screaming so I could find her. She'd every 10 seconds or so scream help, and I'd approach in that direction, running, screaming back. But pretty soon, I started to realize no matter how far into the woods I went, the woman's yells didn't seem to get any closer or louder. If anything, they were always the same distance, even though I was booking it straight in the direction of the screams. I screamed out, "Tell me where you are," and about 5 seconds later, the woman once again screamed out help.
Now that seems like a...
I stopped in my tracks now. I didn't like this. I started to feel like I was walking into some kind of trap. I turned around and started running back in the direction I came. I ran and ran until I could see the flashing headlights of my car on the side of the road beyond the trees. The whole way back, I still heard the woman's screams, but they were still the same distance no matter how much closer to my car I got, as if she were following me back. Was I being stalked? I got in my car and just drove out of there.
Yep. There's some type of creature that comes...
Completely freaked out. I called 911 to report it to the authorities in case they'd want to investigate it. I wasn't sticking around there though, I was tired. After telling a few friends and family about the strange encounter, I was ready to move on with my life. But a week later, I saw something on the news that made me sick to my stomach. The dead body of a 30-something-year-old woman was found in the woods by a man hiking with his dog. Oddly, there were no signs of foul play. The location that the body was reported to have been found was the same general area where I heard the screams. While that patch of woods is very big, I can't help but feel that would be a huge coincidence.
Stupid ad. There's an ad. Story 2.
I was driving from Brooklyn to Vermont to my friend John's cabin to have a weekend of snowboarding. I had two cars at the time of this story, a 2013 BMW 3 Series and a 2006 Ford F-150, which I was driving on.
I like Ford F-150s.
This particular night, I had my snowboarding gear in the bed of the truck. I was about 45 minutes from my buddy's cabin at this point. It was late, like 10 p.m. It was pitch black on these roads, and it was snowing. There were like no other cars on the road up there besides me at that hour. I had just gotten my truck back from the mechanic a few weeks ago. I frequently had problems with that truck, and that night was no exception. At perhaps the worst possible time, on the quietest, darkest road, suddenly my engine starts to completely overheat into the red zone. I slow down and pull onto the side.
Yeah. If that was me, if that was my truck, I'll get a new one.
Wait for it to cool down again.
That seems like the head. There's a head gasket or the fan not doing its job.
Then I slowly got back on the road, but even at a slow speed the needle went back up to the red, and the engine was overheating again. I had to pull over and turn off the truck. I went under the hood to try and diagnose the problem, but I couldn't in the dark and the snow. I had to call John. On this road the reception for T-Mobile was non-existent. I couldn't even call for help. In the moment I felt screwed. I went into the truck to turn it on again, and at least wait in the heat of the truck as it idled. It didn't seem to overheat while idling. I tried one more time to drive, but the same thing happened again. So I had to wait like 10 minutes before I saw a car passing. I had my hazards on, and I opened the door and waved my arms. The passing car stopped. It was some little Toyota. The guy rolled his window down, and I thanked him for stopping and asked if I could use his phone. He asked what happened. I told him my truck was overheating, was undrivable. He then asked me if I'm all alone. I paused for a second and said, yeah.
That seems like a creeple.
He reached for his cell phone and handed it to me. He must have been a local because he had bars. I called my friend John. He picked up, and I asked him what I should do. He told me to call this specific towing company nearby, and that he'd come and pick me up. I gave him my exact location, and he said he was gonna head over. After that, I called the towing company he gave me and requested assistance. During both phone calls, the guy in his car watched me the whole time. I tried to not look back though. After my phone calls, I handed the man back his phone and thanked him. He said you're welcome, and without saying anything else, he rolled up his window and drove down the snowy road into the darkness ahead. I watched as his taillights disappeared completely as he descended below the top of the hilly road above. I was once again alone. I got back into my idling truck to be in the warmth. I flicked the headlights off for a second just to get an idea of how dark it was out. And when I say I couldn't see an inch outside the windows, I'm not exaggerating. It was pure blackness. I sat in the truck waiting and waiting. I couldn't even do anything that needed an internet connection. I resorted to playing games on my phone for 20 minutes, until there was a bang at my passenger side window. I jumped out of my skin as I looked to the window. I couldn't see much of the person, it was too dark outside, and the headlights didn't really light up the sides of the truck. I heard a man's voice start begging for help. He was yelling at me to open the door, he was freezing. I heard him trying to open the door himself, but it was locked. I shined my flashlight to the window, but it barely helped in seeing who was out there. All I saw was someone in a really big black coat with the hood over his head. I yelled back, "What's wrong?" And the mysterious man outside replied saying he's lost and stranded and needs to get out of the cold.
I don't know what to say about that.
I didn't trust this. I sat there nervously trying to figure out what to ask him to prove he's not someone looking to harm me. I didn't even figure out what to say before he started aggressively trying to still open the locked door, and then started pounding on the glass even harder, still screaming for help. In the heat of the moment, I decided to listen to my gut. I put the truck in drive, and he realized this and started pounding harder on the window to break it. I drove the truck onto the road and brought it up to 30 miles per hour, despite the damage I was surely doing to the overheating engine. But then I saw something that I didn't expect that made me feel like my heart skipped a beat. As I came over the hill in the road, I noticed the reflection of taillights approaching me on the side of the road. As I passed the parked car, I realized it was that same Toyota from earlier, the one that the man was driving. I slowed down and lowered the window to see if the man was in the car, but I didn't see anything. It seemed like the car was empty. I looked out the window for a second behind the car, and my taillights lit up footprints in the snow, meaning that man who was banging on my window was him.
Oh. Seems like he was trying to steal.
He was trying to trick me into opening the door to do who knows what. I kept driving my truck, knowing full well I was fucking up the engine, but I didn't care at that point. I pulled over a few minutes later when I saw headlights approaching on the other side, and I wanted to cheer in excitement when I realized it was the tow truck. I flashed my lights and he pulled to the side. As the driver came out, I told him about what just happened. He joked that he got there at the right time. Then he asked if the guy had a gun or anything on him, but I told him I couldn't see. He replied, well then we better do this quick. It took him about 15 minutes to get the truck attached, and in that time, the Toyota never passed us. It was possible he turned around and went the other way for this exact reason. I used the tow truck driver's phone to call John again, and tell him to just meet us at the body shop. To summarize the rest, John and I still went snowboarding that weekend, and the body shop replaced the broken water pump in my truck, causing the overheating.
That's weird. Broken water pump.
I sold that truck a few weeks later. I'm glad I didn't lower my window or unlock the doors to that man trying to get into my car. In that setting, I could have been murdered, and no one would have ever known who had done it.
Now's the time where you tell me everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
You don't know that, Rosa! Oh, God. Okay,
Oh, my
no,
God.
It's in here, it's in here.
I was
Oh,
gone for 30
Dad,
seconds.
Dad! Yeah, I
He was
can go.
bad.
I had my first girlfriend at 17. I lived with my mom at the time because my parents got a divorce when I was 11. One day, I asked my girlfriend on a date, and she was down. We both had jobs. I worked at a local grocery store and she worked at a Starbucks. We both worked the day shifts, and we were also in our senior year of high school. The reason why I asked her on a date that day was because it was a Friday, and we barely had any homework. After work, I picked up my girlfriend from her house, and we went to a small restaurant 10 minutes away from my house, because that's all I could afford at the time. We ate, then we went back to her house to spend some time together. By then, it was dark. She complained how our date night was short, and I told her I can't take her anywhere else that had to be paid for. We came to an agreement that we would go on a night drive. We drove in town, then we drove on some empty road in the woods. Eventually the pavement ended and we were on a dirt road. I had to pee really bad. I told my girlfriend, and she had to pee as well. We pulled over and got out of my car. For some reason, right when we got out of the car, we smelt an awful, indescribable smell. I excused it as another person who also pulled over to do their business. My girlfriend actually gagged from the smell. I told her that we would pee real quick, then go back in the car to get back into town. There was a little flat area that was the best place to piss at. We did our thing, and then we were on our way back to my car. But on our way back, we heard a noise come from the left side of us. It sounded like a twig snapping. I was afraid it was an animal, so we rushed back to my car. Before I had time to open my car door, I heard a scream of fear or pain in the direction my girlfriend and I just pissed at. I told my girlfriend to get in my car while I go investigate. She begged me not to, but I did it anyway. To make her feel safer, I locked the doors. I went the direction to where we were, and I heard that scream again. For some reason, I lost all of my courage to investigate now that I heard it much closer. But when I heard it, it sounded like from the same direction that my girlfriend and I heard the twig snapping. Instead of going that way, I went on my phone, turned the flash on, then took a picture. Once the flash went off, I saw a man in a white shirt with black stripes, with some blue tarp right in front of him. He was just standing there. I didn't hesitate to dash to the car. I unlocked the doors, got in my car, put it in drive, and floored it. My girlfriend kept asking me what happened. She saw I was scared. I told her I would explain later. We got back at the shadier side of town, then drove back to my girlfriend's house. We entered the house and went into her room. That's when I told her I saw the man with the blue tarp in front of him, just standing there. I showed her the picture, and she was just as creeped out as I was. She let me spend the night because we were creeped out, and it was a Friday, and we also had no work or school the next day. That was by far the scariest moment of my life. We aren't in a relationship anymore.
And that's one crazy. That's one crazy person.
I'm 23, she's 22, but we remain as best friends. It was late summer of 2011. I was almost 19 and was hanging out with my best friend who was a few years younger than me. We live in a very rural area of southwestern Virginia, about 15 minutes from Mount Airy, North Carolina. Around here, pretty much everything closes by 10 p.m., so you have to find your own ways to pass the time. But that was never a problem for us, as we could always find a way to have fun. The night started out harmless enough. First to the mall, then cruising the streets looking for girls, things any teen guys would be up to. When that proved to be unsuccessful, we just decided to go bowling until they closed. We then went to Main Street a little before midnight, just to walk some of the back alleys, acting like the edgy badasses we thought we were. But we never felt like we were in any danger, as there isn't much violent crime in the area. After we'd walked all the streets, we got bored with this and decided to grab a bite from Waffle House, as this was pretty much the only late-night dining option at the time. After we ate and made a quick stop at Walmart, we still weren't ready to go home, so we set out driving around some of the backcountry roads. This was nothing new to us. As I said, around here you have to make your own fun, and late-night drives were always our thing. The stretch of road we were now on, I had only driven maybe
I never drive at night just to make fun.
once before during the day, though it wasn't far from where either of us lived. We just had no reason of going down it. While still in Carolina, the road is paved, but within a mile, it enters back into Virginia and turns into dirt. Like most of the dirt roads around here, the county doesn't really give this one much attention since it's so far out of the way, and there are very few houses on it. Since the road often washes out in the heavy rains, you have to drive much slower. Being as unfamiliar with it as we were now traveling at a crawl. While we were both more cautious now, it still just seemed as any other road we would drive. Now at this time of night, the roads are essentially empty around here, and with only a handful of houses on this road, we were certain we wouldn't run into any other traffic. The road is mainly all wooded and sits at the bottom of a small mountain. At night, it's easy to overlook any of the houses on it. We probably would have missed them all, if not for out of the corner of our eye, we noticed a light burning. We both looked and noticed a man standing under his porch light. We couldn't make out any features of the man, but we could tell he was watching us, standing completely motionless, with the exception of his head following us. While we were both now on edge, we tried...
That's creepy.
not to think much of it. We figured it was just someone stepping out for a cigarette, and it's just his demeanor that was so uncomforting to us. While nothing came from that man watching us, this was only the beginning. We gradually picked up our speed as we were becoming a little more unnerved the more we talked about it. Within just a few minutes, though, we came to the end of the road, and we were back on the hardtop, a road that I was much more familiar with, and that I drove about once a week. We turned right, and we were feeling much better as we could pick up our speed and leave the thoughts of that man behind us. We enjoyed the sights from this road as it travels atop a small mountain ridge, offering beautiful views of the town below. After a couple miles, we had reached the end of this road and made another right to make our way back to my house. This road is a little more wooded than the one we had just turned from, but I was even more familiar with this road, as I drove or ridden it literally thousands of times before. As we're making our way back toward the main highway, we saw something up ahead in the distant reaches of my headlights. Deer are horrendous around here, so we figured that's all it was and slowed down. We began to notice it was much whiter than the brown fur of a deer, but we're both used to seeing the occasional albino, so still assumed that's all it was. As we got closer, we noticed it was no animal at all. It was definitely a human, but hunched over with their back to us. They were walking in the left lane against traffic, as one is supposed to. I looked back at my friend as he asked, "What the hell are they doing walking at this time of night?" I looked back towards the person and could finally make out the shape of an older-looking woman with long, scraggly gray hair, wearing a white t-shirt and white pants.
Yeah. That seems like a ghost. Or something.
She still had her back turned to us until we were about 50 feet away from her. That's when she turned to us, and we got the first look at her face. I don't want to say she was on meth or other drugs, but that's the look she gave off. Deep eye sockets with heavy dark bags under them, greasy hair, and very aged skin. I'm not sure how old she actually was, but if I had to guess, I'd say mid-40s to late 50s. But that wasn't the worst of it. She put her hands in the air and started waving them frantically and running towards us. When she did, we could see what looked like dried blood all over the front of her shirt and pants, as well as what looked like a big knife in one of her hands. We weren't sure what she wanted, but that desire to be edgy badasses was instantly erased. We floored it and didn't let off until we reached the highway. We were so terrified of the entire ordeal that what would have usually been a 5-minute quick drive to my house became a 35-minute detour, just on the absurd thought that she could somehow follow us there. In small communities like this, you know pretty much everyone, but neither of us had ever seen this woman before, nor did we ever again. We kept a watch on local news for any stories about a bloody woman being picked up, but never heard a thing. I can't even begin to come up with an explanation why she would be walking the backcountry roads at almost 4 in the morning.
Unless she's a serial killer.
In her shape and condition, with blood on her clothes and a knife in her hand, with all the risks of human or animal altercation she faced. Fast forward to present day. I now live with my wife on that peaceful road on the mountain ridge, between the two roads of the incident. I take the latter one on an almost daily basis, and still have seen no sign of that strange woman since. But just earlier this year, there was a huge drug and cockfighting ring busted down the road of the Watchman Man. I don't know if it was the same house, or if these people were even living in the area back then. But after all this happened, I've often wondered if that was the same house. Maybe that guy was keeping guard on the place. As for the woman, I just hope I never run into her again.
Oh, that was nice. This is the only live stream I'm gonna do. Then tomorrow I'll be going live again. You're gonna pilot go? Sorry if I didn't say that right. Should I keep this live stream going? Oh. Sure, I will do more reaction video. I'll do more Mr.Nightmare reactions. I'm gonna keep this live going. I'll be trying to find a good
sick of all...
Oh wait, I think I found a good one. I'll do more Mr.Nightmare reactions. Oh wait, let's...
All the ads, like this one, just head to adskiller.com, click on Activate Now, add ads...
Oh wait. Sorry if I didn't get to comment in the live stream below. I should have my phone out so I can watch the live chat.
My name is Nancy, and I work as a behavioral therapist. In a local psychology office. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've dealt with a lot of different types of people. I've had hundreds of clients now, and I used to think I've seen everything, but I didn't realize how wrong I was until I took in a young man named Peter as a client. Peter was 15 years old. Peter's father, Tom, would always come in with his son for our sessions. Tom believed his son was on the spectrum for autism, or any kind of social disorder, because all of his life he lacked friends and the ability to socialize with other people his
That's kinda sad.
age properly. What I would do at our therapy
Actually, that is sad.
sessions is try to talk to Peter about things he enjoyed doing, things he wanted to do, and try to get him to open up about his personal life. But at first it was hard because he was very quiet and shy. I would ask Tom to leave the room occasionally to ask Peter some more personal questions about his family life and such. And it seems Peter opened up a bit more when his father wasn't in the room, but I always caught the vibe Tom preferred to stay in the room. I learned from Peter that his parents didn't get along at all. They would fight almost every night for as long as he could remember. He had no siblings or cousins, coming from a very small family. So one thing about me, I love the fall season and anything pumpkin. Pumpkin beers, pumpkin pie, pumpkin spice latte. I can't get enough. One therapy session talking about the freshly fall weather outside, Peter was telling me about how this was his favorite season, and I told him the same, largely because of my love for pumpkin flavored things. But later that night, when I was already in my robe getting ready for bed, there was a loud knocking at my front door.
Should I do, when I do live streams with HMHS Fatigue, should I do just Mr.Nightmare reactions, or actually, hold on. Alright. Alright, let's get back to the video.
I never get knocks past 9 o'clock, so I was nervous when I went to check the window to see who was there. There wasn't anyone, but when I opened the door, I saw a mini pumpkin and a pumpkin-flavored coffee creamer on the ground in front of my door. I
Oh, that's not creepy at all.
knew this was no coincidence. Only a few hours ago, I told Peter about my obsession with pumpkin-flavored things. When my attempted call to Thomas the next day didn't go through, I texted him a picture of the 2 items left by my door, and how inappropriate and uncomfortable it is for me to be followed home by a client. Tom texted back within 10 minutes, saying that his son would never do something like that. He almost acted offended by my accusation. Momentarily, it got me wondering, what if it was just a gift from a neighbor or something? The week went
I don't know what neighbor would do that at past 9.
by, and I wondered if I should terminate my relationship with Peter as a client. But I decided not to.
Stupid ad.
It's Will from Booker Law.
I don't care.
Have you used Steam, the PC game platform?
to see how the next session would go. The following Monday, Peter and Tom came in like usual. Peter seemed to be acting as normal. By now he seemed very happy to talk to me, but I thought I saw it for what it was now, that he may have thought he was attracted to me, being possibly the only woman to speak to him with respect in his life. During that session, I brought up the little gifts at my front door.
I don't think I would be a therapist for that. I ain't getting stalked by no one.
With a smile, not directly accusing him of leaving them, just hinting at what a coincidence it was. And
I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. Oh, and also, just comment, I don't know if you, will come back to the live stream, but I will do more on Mr.Nightmare reactions.
I noticed Tom getting annoyed in the corner by my bringing it up. Peter acted shocked and agreed it was a huge coincidence. It was a truly bizarre situation, and I didn't know what to do. But if it happened again, I knew I'd have to terminate our relationship. 2 nights later, a knock at my door again while I was
That seems like a stalker.
in the living room watching a movie. My heart sank because I already knew what I was expecting. I checked the window again, and no one was there. So I slowly opened the door and sighed out of disgust when I saw more pumpkin-flavored things on my stoop. This time, a pumpkin pie, pumpkin Cheerios, and pumpkin Oreos. It was a little past
Pumpkin Oreos. I know I tried pumpkin pie with Oreos, but I don't know if they will taste good or not.
9 o'clock at this point. I got my cell phone and took a picture of the items once again and sent it to Tom. I was about to start typing out a text about why I could no longer see them, but I heard the ding of someone's phone receiving a text right to my left, in the bushes in front of my house.
Nope. That's not creepy at all.
Started walking slowly over to it, saying Peter's name. I saw someone hiding in the bush as I got close enough, but it wasn't Peter. It was Tom. We looked each other in the eyes, and he said, "Hi Nancy, you look beautiful as always." And I screamed. I ran into my house.
Now that's... I don't know what to say about that, but that would creep me out too.
And locked the door. Seconds before he tried opening it and started banging on it. I screamed to leave me alone or I'd call the police. He apologized through the door and yelled he's leaving. I watched through the window as he left to his car and drove away. This explained not only the unwanted gifts at my door, but possibly the sound of my side gate closing in the middle of the night weeks prior to this. I have no idea how long he was stalking me at my house. My brother, who's a police officer, advised me not to even bother trying to get a restraining order because there wasn't any evidence that he meant me any harm, and it would just be he said, she said allegations. However, I did report the case to the police, and added that Peter may be in an unsafe, abusive household. I don't know what Tom's end goal was by following me home and leaving those things by my door. Based on the way he tried to open my door after I locked it, though, says he wasn't trying to be a romantic type. I feel sorry for Peter. His dad brought him in to see me only as some kind of method of getting closer to me.
Oh, I hate ads.
It was a Friday night in early October a long time ago. I was with my 3 friends, Jose, Brian, and Tanya. We were being bored teenagers wanting something to do in the spirit of the season. It was a nice fall night out, low 60s, nice breeze, so we wanted to be outside. Not much goes on in our boring town, and we weren't old enough to go to bars or anything. We decided to ride our bikes up Miller's Road to this old closed-down pumpkin farm nicknamed Farmer John's Pumpkin Patch. It used to be a literal farm, surrounded by crops on one side and forest on the other. The alleged Farmer John, or whoever actually owned it, didn't live there anymore. It was sold, and whoever bought the land just never did anything with it for a long time.
Buying the property, don't do anything with it.
It was a 20-minute bike ride up Miller's Road, which is an extremely quiet road traffic.
That word sounds creepy. Not the name of it. Is this creepy? I don't want to go up Miller's Road. That sounds like a road where serial killers hides at.
Wise. Just lots of cornfields and farms around this area. When we got there, we rode our bikes off the road onto the grass, all with our flashlights on. We leaned our bikes up against the old abandoned house that the owner used to live in.
That's a nice, like, barn. Old wooden. Probably from the 1900s. Or maybe 1950s.
Walked around the overgrown grass a bit, checking out where the pumpkin patch used to be and where the animals in the little petting zoo area used to be. There's something really cool about exploring abandoned places at night, but also kind of spooky. We went back to the house where we left the bikes. Breaking into it was relatively easy since we weren't the first ones to do so. The door was already knocked off the hinges. All we had to do was kick it open. This is where it got really creepy though, being in an abandoned house at night. Even as a thrill seeker, it's a bit unnerving, even when you're 4 people. I'd say 5 minutes into being inside the house, we started to hear thumps from upstairs. Like periodic thumps, not just random thumps. Jose and I decided to head upstairs to check it out. Tanya didn't want to go upstairs because she was scared, so Brian stayed downstairs with her. When we got to the upstairs, the thumping was much louder for sure. It came
Now that seems like a serial kill that bought that puppy.
from the left side of the stairs. Our flashlights revealed a bunch of doors up here, all open, leading into what were probably once all bedrooms. Our footsteps were loud as we walked closer to the room with the thumping. There was no way to hide it on these rickety, creaky floorboards. As we got to the corner room doorway, the thumping stopped. I whispered to Jose, "Is it an animal?" He went,
I don't think thumping noises will be an animal.
"Shh." I pointed my flashlight into the room, starting from the left side and working the light to the right. I stopped when my flashlight landed on a male's figure in the corner of the room facing the wall, with what appeared to be blood on the wall in front of him, probably banging his head on it, creating those thumping sounds. Jose aimed his light at him too, and we both jumped back. We left in a hurry, and as we ran down the stairs, a horrifying, gut-wrenching scream came from the room we were just in, causing all 4 of us to scream. As we left the house and got to our bikes, we heard stomping down the stairs.
I want to. I want to be a part of that.
From inside the house, as the screaming got louder, we all ran to our bikes, absolutely freaked the fuck out. We pedaled as fast as we could out of there. The screaming stopped before it ever came out of the house. We didn't look back. We continued pedaling all the way up Miller's Road till we got back to my house. I have no idea what we witnessed in there, and I won't even try to explain it.
How can you sleep on such a firm setting?
Stupid ad. I don't care.
Visit
I
sleepnumber.com
can't.
to shop now.
When I was a little kid, there was this top of the mountains resort I went to with my family 2 different times. The resort was shut down a long time ago, but I remember it for the most part to be a very nice, family-friendly place. Both times we went, it was in the fall, because my mom wanted to go for the changing colors of the leaves. This story takes place the second time we went to the resort. I was, I think, 6 years old. My older brother Corey was around 10, and my little brother was around 4. My parents paid most attention to my little brother, of course, with the expectation that my older brother would be kind of watching out for me. On this particular night, they were doing the bonfire marshmallow roast and hayride. We had ridden the hayride already while the sun was going down. After that was the bonfire and mini fireworks show.
I don't know. This seems not creepy or scary.
At the bonfire, I met this man who started talking to me, asking me if I was having fun and if I'd been to the resort before. He said he was one of the owners. Then he gave me a little laser pointer to...
Now, that'd be strange.
Boy, and I instantly trusted him because, I was 6. The hayride driver announced that he was doing a final ride in the dark and that he was going to drive down the big hill, which sounded exciting. My older brother suggested we do it. He made some friends at the resort, so I think he disappeared to go look for them to ride the hayride with us. In the meantime, I was still sitting by the bonfire. My dad was drinking beer with this other dad on the other side of the fire, and my mom was with my little brother roasting marshmallows. Eventually, I went to go ask my mom where Corey went, and she said he's going on the hayride and to hurry and get on before they left. So I hurried to the mini line of like 5 people waiting to get on, and when I was on, there were about 15 to 20 people on there.
Oh. That's nice.
And I didn't see my brother. I sat on one of the haystacks anyway, waiting, as the truck started up, indicating it was about to leave.
Oh,
I saw that man from before climb into the truck with a woman behind him, and he came to sit next to me when he saw me. He asked where my family was, and I shrugged my shoulders. Speaking of that, my brother never got on the hayride. The woman sat next to him. She looked at me and smiled, and he said that's his wife. He asked if I still had that laser pointer, and
strange. But disturbing at the same time.
I said yeah and showed it to him. He smiled. The whole time I spoke with the man, his wife next to him was looking at me, smiling. During the hayride, the two were basically talking to me the whole time. Then when we were approaching the hill drop where the driver said he was going to floor it, the man next to me saw I was nervous. So when we drove down the hill, he grabbed my arms and lifted them in the air so as to do the no hands thing that people...
I wouldn't want any strangers to do that to me. That's just disturbing.
like to do on roller coasters. It actually made me laugh because the drop down was fun. The man asked me if I had been to the arcade of the resort yet, and when I shook my head no, he told me he had the key to a lot of the games, and asked if I wanted it. I of course shook...
Then Mr. Nightmare said there's one of the owners. Why would one of the owners ride on a hayride? Probably unless if his business requires him to do it. Maybe.
my head...
During Halloween we do hayrides, but none of the owners ride on the tractor, but they do sometimes have security to ride on the tractors at my work. Yes, people like to have fun, drink beer. Sometimes they can get sometimes someone can't handle the alcohol and they get aggressive. So security and police has to arrest them.
Yes. He said he...
During Halloween we have either 2 or 3 police officers to watch for team members so they don't get attacked by a drunk person or a person that is high.
He'd just have to go get it and go there with me, and it would be all mine. We one by one left the back of the truck as we got back to the bonfire. The man and woman both walked alongside me, and the woman held my hand and kept calling me sweetie anytime she said something to me.
This just seems like the person lost their child and now they're trying to kidnap a different child.
The man said the arcade wasn't far. As we walked away from the brightness of the huge bonfire and into the darkness of the pathway back towards the cabins and main buildings of the resort, I heard Cody's voice call my name from behind. I turned, and it was Cody looking at us. I yelled back, "We're going to the arcade," and the man and woman looked back but didn't say anything. My brother didn't follow us or say anything else. After we got further...
If I was at Boso, I'll go with him.
From the bonfire, the woman's grip on my hand got tighter and we started walking faster. Something wasn't right because her grip was starting to hurt me. I also noticed we weren't going in the direction of the clubhouse. We were heading towards the parking lot. When I asked where we were going, the man said we're getting the key to the arcade games. Next thing I remember, my mom's panicked screaming voice was heard behind us, screaming, "Let go of him." My mom was running over hysterical, and the 2 strangers stepped away from me, and I remember the woman saying some BS like they were taking me to the front desk here.
The man says, "Oh, taking the arcade. Oh, taking the front desk." I like Mr. Nightmare. Every video he makes is very good.
Area. My mom yelled and cursed at them, and the 2 of them just quickly walked away into the darkness. I wish my dad was with my mom at that moment to kick the man's ass. The worst part is they got to just drive off and potentially do this to somebody else. My mom asked everybody at the bonfire if they had seen those people. Nobody recognized them. She also reported this to the resort and the police. But really, what could they do once the couple disappeared? The idea that I was almost kidnapped by a creepy older couple when I was only 6 or 7 is stomach churning, even to this day.
Well, that was disturbing. But it was awesome. This video is very awesome. like I said, I like his videos. But some of them are kinda disturbing for me. But some of them are not disturbing. Well, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. And I will see you in the next video, which is